Fantasy football week 3, wide receivers, starts, sits, and waiver wire plays, maybe some daily fantasy sleepers as well. I'm going to be rolling through game by game, giving you starts and sits designation. For our live stream, I will be answering questions at the end of the segment once I rip through these games here. So let me go. It's wide receivers. We have a lot to get through, so let's keep it fast and furious. Miami versus Jacksonville. Devontae Parker, analytically, I don't love him this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it's not that Devontae Parker, it's not the questionable, versus is he playing or not. He is going to play. However, Jacksonville's defense has been playing well. If you have Parker and you don't have other options, you can play him. Daily fantasy, I'm staying away from him. If you have somebody else off, flex, you could probably play somebody else. Again, live stream, I'll take your questions, at the end here. Jacksonville, Preston Williams is a sit. Jakeem Grant's a sit. Hollins is a sit. Everybody else from Miami is a sit. Jacksonville, I have DJ Chark, assuming he's full health tonight, as a play. I have him at 18.7. I have him basically as the 14th ranked receiver. Jacksonville, do they get D.D. Westbrook back? How's that going to play? Laviska Shenault, I like what he's showing. He's a nice little Swiss Army knife there. But there's so much target distribution here that I'm probably going to stay away from them in redraft. If you're playing a matchup-specific daily fantasy, Shenault would be my guy, my secondary wide receiver for Jacksonville. Chicago versus Atlanta. Allen Robinson for Chicago and nothing else. Last week we saw Mitchell Trubisky fall into that trap of just isolating Allen Robinson and just chucking the ball to him over and over. Miller is going to have value throughout the season, but his value within each week is so volatile that I'm just staying away. You can do better on the waiver wire with more consistency. Atlanta, Julio Jones, because of the defensive matchup, I don't actually have as a start projection in terms of my computers, but it's Julio, man. You got to start him. You got to, if he's healthy. Calvin Ridley, definitely a start. Russell Gage, definitely a start. I like this passing attack, even against a tough Chicago Bears defense. I think the receivers are going to get plenty of catches, plenty of yardage, so you can feel safe there. Cincinnati versus Philadelphia. A.J. Green is a sit for me this week. I think he was banged up again against Cleveland. I don't know. For me, coming into the season, Tyler Boyd I thought was going to be the more secure and more consistent guy. He found the end zone last week. I think he'll keep it going. I like Joe Burrow, and I like Tyler Boyd this week. It's not a sexy grade. He's kind of like he's ranked number 33 in terms of wide receivers, so that's like a bottom flex type grade, but he is startable. Higgins, Ross, I stay away from. Philadelphia, Alshon Jeffrey's out. That murks up the whole scenario. If you're picking one Philadelphia receiver, I think maybe Greg Ward is the guy, but for crying out loud, just Philadelphia, they need help. They need help on the outside. Please help Philadelphia on the outside. It'll help everybody else in that offense. Honestly, though, it's going to be tight ends and it's going to be receivers out of the backfield, I think, this week for Philadelphia. Houston versus Pittsburgh. Brandon Cooks I have as a start grade. Gulp. That is going to be like Will Fuller being out. Man, Houston. They just have a bunch of receivers that make you very, very nervous if you're starting them. But I do have Brandon Cooks ranked as the number 9 wide receiver this week. So analytically, my computer picks love him. Randall Cobb stills, I'm away. Pittsburgh, I know Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson have been questionable. It was the same deal when they played Denver. I think both are clear starts for me, both within the top 20 of wide receivers. At some point, Chase Claypool is going to overtake James Washington. I think there will be some volatility there. Chase Claypool, if you're in a dynasty, snap him up. He is very impressive. He is very impressive. He looks like a young Terrell Owens. I mean, and you can see it in his snap counts too, and his targets. I mean, he's catching deep balls all over the field. He reminds me a little bit offensively with what Pittsburgh did with Martavis Bryant back in the day. And Martavis Bryant, this Pittsburgh offense can go 3 deep at wide receiver. They will all have value. I like Claypool long term. James Washington will be more of the 4 wide receiver, kind of working the middle of the field guy. Top 2 are locked in. Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson. Claypool will be the guy later in the year. Las Vegas versus New England. Ruggs, I don't have him as a start grade, but because of how I think this game is going to go, I think New England's going to do everything they can to lock up Waller underneath. I think Vegas, as they always do, will stick to the run. I think Ruggs is going to have some deep shots. He was wide open downfield like 4 or 5 times on that Monday Night Football game. I think he will outplay his projections, so I actually would start Henry Ruggs this week, and I definitely snap him up in daily fantasy. The other wide receivers are a solid no for the Raiders. New England, I'm a start on Julian Edelman this week, and I am a start on N'Keal Harry. I love what this system is doing. They're kind of flaring him out. They're setting some things up deeper for him. Cam Newton does look in his direction. They haven't really connected yet. He is a great buy low guy on the waiver wire. Nobody's really paying attention to him yet. But again, I do watch all the games start to finish. I like to see how these offenses are progressing. They're setting some stuff up, and N'Keal Harry is going to be a very, very formidable red zone guy. The Rams versus the Buffalo Bills. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Reynolds, Jefferson. My computers don't like them. I do like Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods to exceed projection this week. I think the Buffalo Bills will do a better job on Tyler Higbee. They'll do a little bit of a better job in the run. I think the Rams will push more to the outside because, frankly, they haven't had to so far this season. I think they will have to this week. So I like Kupp and Woods to exceed the computer projections. Buffalo, Stephon Diggs is a definite start for me. John Brown, who I normally like, is a sit for me. Same with Cole Beasley and everybody else there. San Francisco versus the New York Giants. I'm staying away from San Francisco wide receivers. I just think that this offense is going to go 2 tight ends and running back. It's very similar to what we're going to see from Philadelphia, maybe until Alshon Jeffrey comes back. San Francisco, they're basically waiting on Deebo Samuel. I know Jimmy Garoppolo, too. Is he going to play? Isn't he? I don't know at this point. I think he's questionable. If he does play, they're going to want to get rid of the ball quick. Again, that doesn't bode well for receivers downfield. That bodes more well for tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. San Francisco, let's see, New York Giants. Slayton I do have as a start. I mentioned in the quarterback segment that I feel like with Saquon out, with Freeman still kind of basically getting his body ready for NFL action, I think the Giants are going to have to go spread more with Daniel Jones. Slayton I have as a start. Golden Tate I have as a start. But I'd stay away from the other receivers there. Tennessee versus Minnesota. A.J. Brown, questionable, but I do have him as a start. Corey Davis, I have as a definite start this week. I like the receivers against the Minnesota defense. Even Adam Humphries, I don't start him in my fantasy leagues, but if you're looking for that daily fantasy sleeper, he is projected an 15th overall for wide receivers. I like him working kind of the seam routes in the middle of the field. Even with Jonnu Smith, I know they'll be competing for similar targets there. Adam Humphries, I have as a nice grade. Minnesota, Adam Thielen, I do have as a start. I stay away from all Minnesota wide receivers. Jefferson has to step up. It's going to take him a few games. Watch his target totals, watch his efficiency, but until he proves it, keep him out of your lineup. For a reminder for our live stream, I'm running through game by game. Once I get through all games, I'm going to be answering your live stream questions. So I will get to you. I promise I will. Washington versus Cleveland. Terry McLaurin, I think based on volume, you can start him, but I don't have a great grade on him. Steven Sims analytically could be very interesting. If you're looking at a wide receiver to get a touchdown pass, I think Sims is the more likely guy, but I don't love him in your redraft league. This is more daily fantasy talk I'm saying. You might want to take a risk on Steven Sims because he'll be cheap. Cleveland Browns, Odell Beckham, not a great grade, but I mentioned before for one of our live stream questions, Cleveland are going to be slamming Chubb and Kareem Hunt against this Washington front to try to tire and neutralize the pass rush. At some point, Odell Beckham is going to have 2 to 3 deep shots down the field, and because of that, because of the explosive potential, I start Odell Beckham, but I sit Landry and everybody else there. Carolina versus the Chargers. DJ Moore is a start. Robbie Anderson, although I don't love him, my computers don't love him, is a start. Christian McCaffrey, the emphasis of his offense, it's gone. The identity of the offense is gone. I do like Mike Davis as a sleeper this week. I think will get you about 80% of the productivity that McCaffrey would. But what does that mean? That means Bridgewater better step up this week. That means that Carolina will be throwing the ball. So volume-wise, I like both of those receivers for Carolina. The Chargers, Keenan Allen with Herbert playing is a definite start for me. I love Keenan Allen with Herbert. I don't like Keenan Allen with Tyrod Taylor. There you go. Mike Williams, they'll get some deep shots, but if you're looking for a deep shot play, I'd rather go with Odell Beckham than Mike Williams. It's only a matter of time before Mike Williams gets like a 3-touchdown day. He's been dry for like a season and a half at this point, but they're taking shots, and it's not like they're ignoring him. Things will open up for him as well. New York Jets, any receiver named Jamison Crowder, I am staying away from. Basically, I'm considering them radioactive. I'm just running away from them any way I can. Jamison Crowder, if he's healthy, because the offense is going to have to be routed through him, I think he's going to get you a ton of catches, and because of that, he'll get you a ton of yardage and a decent touchdown opportunity. I do have him as a start grade. Again, everybody else I'm staying away from. Indianapolis, Hilton is actually analytically, I have Hilton underneath Pascal. Pascal I have as a start. I was talking about Pittman Jr. I think it's going to take Pittman a little while to progress in this offense, but watch closely this week. At some point, Pittman will have more value than Pascal. I'm just betting on Pascal. That's a lot of P's. It's a lot of P's. I'm probably popping my mic as I say them. T.Y. Hilton, because of the Campbell injury, I'm going to start T.Y. Hilton. I don't have a great grade on him this week in terms of the computer projections, but it's the Jets. The Jets are struggling. I think their defense is a little better than we give it credit for, but Phillip Rivers, he'll throw the ball to Hilton, so yeah, let's go ahead and start him. Dallas versus Seattle. I actually like the receivers in this matchup. I think we'll get a lot of offense. With respect, I know Seattle's secondary is baller. I love them. But Dallas, their offense has come out pretty sharp. Their defense has, I think, been the thing that's been betraying them early in the season. Their offense looks good with, the new system, McCarthy in there. I know they have Kellen Moore kind of held over. He's the incumbent offensive coordinator. Cooper, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb all starts for me, with Cooper being the 5th-ranked wide receiver, getting in the end zone at least once. I think Gallup and CeeDee Lamb, one of those guys will get in the end zone, but all will get catches and yardage, so I like all of them this week. CeeDee Lamb is probably, I don't know, whoever's cheaper there between Gallup and Lamb is who I would go with in daily fantasy. For Seattle, Lockett, I don't have a great grade on Lockett. I have an amazing grade on DK Metcalf. He's actually, from my computer projections, rank him as number 1, 2 touchdowns this week at wide receiver. Seattle, they divvy the ball out more, but Tyler Lockett, I stay away from him this week in daily fantasy. If you don't have a better option at wide receiver, okay, you can do it. By the way, for our live streamers, you can look in the show notes below and get these free projections. I'll give you the full boat of projections and all the analytics. I do it all free. You just have to email me to opt in, basically. So all this is available. If you're picking this up on the podcast or watching on YouTube, check the banner or the link below, and you can get all of my projections that I'm reading through right now. Detroit versus Arizona. Kenny Golladay, if he plays, is a start. Marvin Jones, if Kenny Golladay plays, is a start. If he doesn't play, he's a start. I like Marvin Jones this week. He's a start grade for me. Staying away from Amendola and everybody else. Arizona, DeAndre Hopkins, come on. Analytically, I have him ranked as the number 6 wide receiver this week, but he's a start regardless. I actually think Larry Fitzgerald will have a better game than Christian Kirk, so daily fantasy-wise, I probably start Fitzgerald. Fantasy football-wise, I probably go in another direction. Let's see here. Tampa Bay versus Denver. Assuming Godwin plays, he's a start. Mike Evans, I think, is a start regardless. Tampa Bay let Tom Brady down last week. Brady looked a lot better in week 2 against Carolina. Denver's defense is better than Carolina's defense, but I still start kind of those top 2 wide receivers there and stay away from everybody else. Denver. Jerry Jeudy, assuming he plays, I believe he's questionable, is a start. Tim Patrick is a daily fantasy sleeper for me this week to step in. Courtland Sutton's gone, so there's going to be a second receiver there. Daily fantasy sleeper, Tim Patrick. I stay away from him in fantasy, obviously. Very interested to see what happens with KJ Hamler. He should be playing a lot more this week. Let's keep an eye out, everybody. This might be... basically when we're talking next week, this might be a week where I'm saying, hey, pick up Hamler off of waiver wire. So he's going to be interesting. Keep an eye out. Green Bay Packers, Davante Adams, assuming he plays, as a definite start. He's ranked as a number 2, but that doesn't calibrate for his hamstring issue, so buyer beware. But if he's in the lineup, you got to play him this week. If he's not there, I like Valdez-Scantling more than Allen Lazard. I don't love either if Adams is playing. If he's not, those targets are going to be distributed somewhere, so probably Lazard and Valdez-Scantling are worth a start, with Valdez-Scantling being my preferred. If Michael Thomas plays, he's a start. Obviously, if he doesn't play, I liked what I saw from Traquan Smith a lot more than I liked what I saw from Emmanuel Sanders, so I'm staying away from Emmanuel Sanders until he looks better on film. Traquan Smith this week I have as an awful grade, but again, if Thomas doesn't play, maybe daily fantasy sleeper, you could do worse. Kansas City, Tyreek Hill, start. Sammy Watkins, I have as a start, and then I have Robinson and McCole Hardman graded as sits. So computer's best guess, say Sammy Watkins is the secondary wide receiver there. Take that for what it's worth. That is so volatile. The second, third, and fourth wide receivers in Kansas City is so volatile. It's based on matchup. But again, my computer's like Watkins this week. Baltimore, Marquise Brown is a start, and I stay away from everybody else. I think Baltimore's receivers are good, but the only start-worthy player for me is Marquise Brown. Not Miles Boykin, Marquise Brown. Let me get to, before I get to the live stream questions, let me get you some waiver wire and daily stream plays. I think he's gone already by this point in this time of the week, but Corey Davis is definitely a start for me. Adam Humphries, also from Tennessee, has a start designation, but I feel like that's better for a daily fantasy sleeper than it is for a fantasy football league. I think you probably have stronger rosters elsewhere. You could look at running back for that flex spot, so I probably would look elsewhere, but I do have him possibly getting in the end zone this week, so there you go. Zach Pascal, I mentioned before, I think he's the most likely benefactor with Paris Campbell being out. Keep a very close eye on Pittman, but I like Pascal this week to get the more consistent yardage and target distribution. Russell Gage, you can pick him up probably still, although people are starting to wake up on Russell Gage and play him. Tim Patrick, I mentioned before. I like Tim Patrick as a daily fantasy sleeper this week. as that secondary receiver. The defenses are going to be keying in on stopping Judy. I think things will be opening up for Patrick. So could be a good one for daily fantasy sleeper wise.